But hi everyone, I'm from Singapore. And in this picture that you see, this is a picture of people from East Asia who attended the Global Power Shift event organized by 350.org in Istanbul, Turkey in 2013. So this is like Korea represent. And for me, it has been slightly over 10 years and it has led me to a discovery of myself as my sense of purpose and the why that I do in the environment sector. And so for me, over the years, I've witnessed small yet impactful actions that are done by everyday people. And in these actions, for me, it revealed a powerful truth, right? That through personal growth and through active engagements, you build resilient communities and you build resilient cities. So what do I mean by that? So I'm going to share a story of my co-founder. So I started off a group called Singapore Youth for Climate Action in 2015. And my co-founder, Chui Fen, around the same period of time, she also started her own initiative. So in this picture, you see people building an edible garden. So what happened for Chui Fen was that she stepped out of her comfort zone. She knocked on doors, like 100 doors in her estate, to get people to talk about it and gather interest to build an edible garden in her estate. And a couple of years later, Chui Fen also started a community composting initiative called Project Black Gold. So for me, learning about Chui Fen's story over the years made me realize of this power of self-transformation. It changes not only you, but also the neighborhoods and the communities that you're in, be it in your immediate surrounding or all over the country. And so for me, just learning about similar stories like that over the years, it made me realize of this power of the sense of purpose in doing what we do. In my case, it was in the environment sector. In your case, it could be human rights and other issues as well. And so for me, over that journey from 2013 onwards, in building Singapore Youth for Climate Action, I began to see a shift in my role. So previously, I would be organizing events or organizing community outreach events. But over the years, I see myself more as a facilitator in trying to provide spaces and frameworks for different voices to come together to do something collaboratively. And so because of that, through work recently, part of the work required me to also manage sub-grants. So one of the grants that we provided was for a group of people from Southeast Asia who were doing a project in Aceh, Indonesia. So Aceh is the part of Indonesia that's nearer to Malaysia. And they were running this ecofeminism and environmental journalism workshop. So in this workshop, they were exploring the intersections of gender, media, and environmental advocacy. And it is through this workshop that participants were finding their voice as storytellers and finding their sense of purpose. Because through this activity, as you share your stories and you inspire each other, they began to realize that they could also be social justice and environmental advocates in their communities. And in this workshop, I think people not only found it as a space for self-discovery, they also found it as a space for them to find framework of actions to drive further changes in the community. So, for example, for this, although the workshop ended around March, when I was visiting their website, for example, I still saw some updates. So for me, it was inspiring to see like the work continuing after the workshop as well. And so, overall, hearing stories from the ladies who attended the workshop and from other people that I've met across time as well, I think for me, this idea of sharing stories is important because as you tell different stories and you have different narratives and unique perspectives, you're sharing a shared resilience for your community and your cities as well. And what do I mean by this? Right, so I'm sharing a few more examples from across Asia. So in this picture, for example, the communities in Cambodia, with the support of Asian Development Bank, were adopting climate smart techniques. In this case, it was to use better water and irrigation system to boost their food security and resilience. So it was helping them adapt to the climate change. In this picture, WWF Laos was working with the local villages to restore forests and combat deforestation. So the locals were building native plants and creating nurseries that protected the ecosystems, and with that also boosting their local livelihoods. In this one, so homes like this, I think around in the first run of the project, more than 1,400 homes like this were being built in coastal areas in Vietnam. So these are like safer, more sustainable housing options for people living in coastal areas, because it allowed them to have houses that were more extreme weather resistant. And for this one, so this is something that's growing in Korea as well. So for this particular picture, it's in a residence complex in the Nowon-gu area. It's about northeast of where our accommodation is. And what's happening is that people are starting to grow their own foods, harvest their own mushrooms, and being engaged in environmental education. So like across all these examples, I hope you see there's this trend of or idea of resilience emerging across time, across collaboration. So I think a question that I hope we can all think about is, how do we continue building partnerships or alliances that will allow us to help build adaptable, inclusive, and sustainable cities for future generations? And with that, how can we continue building cities that thrive without depleting our natural resources by integrating resilience and sustainability? So just to quickly and briefly respond to my own question, I think for me, like there's a lot of projects happening across Asia, but one that I thought was somewhat similar to Singapore and that I like is the one happening in Bangkok. So there's the Green Bangkok 2030 project, and part of it is to transform the city, I think up to 30% green spaces by converting vacant lots, rooftops, and so on. So this will also improve livability, air quality, and the general well-being for people as well. And with that, I think another question we can ask ourselves is, how can we continue building cities in a sustainable way while also preserving culture? So in this picture, in a totally different context altogether, this is actually the largest hall in Forbidden City, and the name of the hall is Hall of Supreme Harmony. So I was thinking about the name, and I think that's also like an idea that we can take away in that, how do we actually build this supreme harmony utopian by getting people to embrace both progress and preservation at the same time. So I think something that we're all familiar with is the need to act now because of the urgency of the climate issues and how choices of today has consequences for our future generations. And so I invite you to imagine cities that can flourish without harming the environment, and do whatever we can, be it from individual actions to larger project collaborations, because at the end of the day, what we really need is for people to move forward together. Thank you.